Good afternoon and welcome to Go Beyond. My name is Alyssa Robinson. I'm the digital strategist here at Treach, and I am here with our senior pastor, Reverend Daniel Humbert. And Go Beyond is a time that we come together each week to dig deeper into the message from Sunday. We do it every Monday and Wednesday at 12:30. And on Mondays, we focus on the Huddle Guide, which you can find a link to the Huddle Guide in the description of this video, either above me or below me, depending on where you're watching. And you can always catch them at tmumc.org/stories. But we're going to answer some of the questions from this week's Huddle Discussion together, which we encourage you to do at home with your loved ones. And I feel like the questions, for some reason, were a little bit harder for me this week than in previous weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the first question and make Daniel answer it first.
Well, so of course, they're directly related to some of the points that I was making, in the message. So, and I would agree, they're challenging.
Yeah.
Hey, before we begin, it's always funny what we notice, right? And so I noticed, based on the announcements that you did Sunday, that you've got a coffee thermos right behind you to your back right.
Oh, that one back there. That's my emergency one. I also have my coffee. I have a coffee here. I have two coffee cups back there so that I can have one to take home with me. There is always coffee within reach.
I guess, isn't it funny what we just noticed? And as you had made those announcements, I thought, oh, there's a coffee mug right there.
Yeah, I think anyone who knows me who saw those announcements was just laughing to themselves, saying, Alyssa would never give up coffee for a New Year's resolution.
Yeah. So it was completely unbelievable, right? Completely unbelievable. Yeah, you did great.
So our first question of today is, how will you spend more time with God?
Yeah, so I have to be honest in my response. I hope I'm always honest, but I'm going to try to be more clear today. And that is, I can't answer that first question without answering the second question for me personally. And so the second question is, how are you going to spend less time with stuff? So the way I'm going to spend more time with God is by spending less time with stuff. And for me in particular, it's going to be social media. Part of what I discovered during COVID was, man, I'm on my phone on social media a lot. And it had is still for me, golly, just like this default, no think time. If I've got a down moment or if I've got some, free moments or whatever, because it's just sitting there either in my hand or on the desk in front of me or on the chair next to me or whatever. I literally just pull that puppy up and start going through social media. And so I've realized it's become far too much of a habit for me. I'm not going to, get off of social media. I'm just going to be more deliberate about how often I just turn to it and reflect on it. And I'm going to use that time for breath prayers or other forms of connecting with God. So I'm going to hopefully take my own advice that I talked about on Sunday and spend more time with God in those, what I just call connective moments that I've been abdicating to social media. So I'm answering 2 in 1. You get a 2 for me today.
Well, and I talked about how I want to spend more time with God a little bit in our virtual connection center on Sunday. One of the things that I've gotten really bad about throughout COVID, which I'm sure everybody else has as well, is I'm a Netflix junkie, and a new series comes out and within 48 hours I've binged it. And so I saw a new series come up on Netflix last week called Guide to Meditation. And when I first saw it, I thought it was a documentary about meditation. So I was like, interesting. And I clicked into it, but it isn't actually a guide to meditation. It's someone who I don't know, when they were in their late 30s, early 40s, decided to give up everything, become a monk, and was learning how to meditate from Eastern monks. And he basically took what he learned and put it into this Netflix series where he is actually guiding the viewer through meditational practices. And so the idea is you put this on and you're centering yourself and he's kind of guiding you through this. And that's something that I was like, okay, great. I can take my unhealthy habit of binging Netflix and combine it with something useful.
Yeah.
But one of my greatest struggles in spiritual practices has always been prayer, because the traditional well, I don't know if it's actually not traditional, but the way that I was raised in prayer was basically, oh, it's just a conversation with God. I'm like, well, God doesn't talk back to me. I don't know if God's talking back to everyone else regularly, but sometimes it just feels like putting things out there, and I'm not getting any response. And then I get discouraged and frustrated.
Yeah.
And so I kind of gravitate more to the meditational, mindfulness, mind opening, connecting into God's energy, that divine energy that I might be getting a little hippy dippy here, but that I believe, when they say Christ lives within us, that is the energy that we're trying to connect with. And so I want to learn more about meditation and hope that it can help with my prayer practice. So I'm going to watch that guide to meditation and see how I can spend more time with God doing that.
That's cool. I think that's kind of neat how you just sort of stumbled on that,
Yeah.
sort of serendipitously, right? And
On Friday or on the Thursday before your message on Sunday. So it just kind of is God nudging me saying, hey, try this.
I like how God nudges. See, that's pretty cool. Well,
So,
in some ways, you didn't answer both together as well. Maybe, I don't know.
well, it's kind of, I'm spending more time with stuff to spend more time with God. So the second question is, how are you spending less time with stuff?
Yeah.
Um,
You get to go now again, see, because I've already answered.
People are tired of hearing me talk. So spending less time with stuff is also difficult for me and not because I am a lover of stuff. It's actually the opposite. I consider myself quite the minimalist,
Yeah.
and it is and I'm wearing jeans right now that have 3 holes in the back. And I'm like, hey, if I wear a long enough flannel shirt to cover it, I don't need to buy new jeans.
See,
So that's kind of, I don't get caught up in stuff
yeah.
very easily. And so spending less time with stuff for me is those little distraction things, like you said, social media, Netflix, games, playing games on my phone, like all of those pacifiers
Yeah.
would be the
And
stuff.
the word, of course, is a catch-all phrase, right? Stuff. And so, but I think, unfortunately, in my own sort of pulling that together, I didn't think about how it's going to lean into just like what you described, which is that you're not an accumulator, you're a minimalist. I am as well. And it's just, I think things like the news, opinion folk, certainly social media, anything like that is stuff, because just as I acknowledge that I got sort of literally caught up in social media more than is needful. I don't think social media is a bad thing. I just think obviously it can consume. I think the news is one of those. And I started, I think probably even slightly before COVID, but continued to perpetuate it during COVID. I don't watch the national news anymore because it did nothing but suck me into being negative and facing all the sort of negative things. Well, golly, I get enough of that already. I didn't need any more of that. And so I still read some news periodically, but I used to literally record the news and watch it later and all that kind of stuff. I just found that it pulled me down rather than helped inform me. And so I'm much more selective in how and what I read or perceive or watch in terms of news. And for me, that's a little bit of the less time with stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. So the last question, how will you be more committed to Jesus? And I want you to clarify for me, how is that different from the first question? How will you spend more time with God, and how will you be more committed to Jesus?
Yeah, it's a great question. So one is more about just spending my time, i.e., with God. But commitment to Jesus, I think, certainly is about time, but it's also about following his teachings, whatever those teachings are. So in my case, I'm going to make every attempt to be more deliberate about praying for my enemies, because I don't do that well, because I don't like to do it. It is very difficult. Obviously, if they're my enemy, I either don't care for them or I don't care for what they do. And so I have done it periodically, not regularly and consistently. And this is a teaching of Jesus, right? And so part of commitment is, so I claim I'm a follower of Jesus. I say that I believe in him and what he brings and teaches and offers, but I don't always follow everything. And that's normal, right? I don't think there's any single human being who follows every teaching of Jesus. And so the concept here is figure out one of those teachings of Jesus that we've either struggled with or don't understand or just need to follow through more on. And so for me, it's going to be praying more consistently for those with whom I either disagree or are challenged by or really don't care for. And unfortunately, there's a number of those folks, right? And for me personally, I'm going to hopefully use that as a way to both stay in connection with God, but also to have a, hopefully in due time, because this is a part of what prayer offers, is that I have a better understanding of that person. If I'm praying for them, then I'm thinking about them. And if I'm thinking about them, it means that I have a desire somehow, some way, even minimal or distant, that I'm thinking more about them, and I may then therefore want to do something about that relationship. So that's what I mean. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense in terms of the commitment versus time with God.
Yeah. I think I am, if I'm being completely honest, which I always am, uh, I'm not ready to pray for my enemies yet. And
Sure.
that's not, but I
Yep.
think that the first step on the path for me and something that I can focus on in the coming weeks is to stop fanning the flames,
Hmm.
to take a step back. I'm very guilty of matching energies. So if someone comes to me fired up, I'm like, yeah, we're fired up. We're mad, you know?
Yeah.
And I just make things worse because when people come to me angry or they're passionate about something, I'm like, yeah, let's get passionate. Let's get in there.
Mhm.
And what I really need to do is take a deep breath, take a step back, let them air out what they need to air out, but don't add to it. Don't fan the flames. Don't take them even deeper into their anger or into whatever it is that they're feeling. And that I think is the first step to where maybe I can eventually get towards praying for my enemies. But there has to be a small step for me to get there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think that's real for all of us, right? Is that we need to take one small step at a time. And I mean, you mentioned passion. And of course, we all sort of, um, most of us cherish passion and we think that it can be a very helpful thing. But I think we've witnessed over the last many weeks and certainly last many months that there can be ways in which passion can be quite destructive and even perhaps violent. And so we have to not so much um, uh, tone down the passion, but rather focus the passion, right, on positive, helpful, productive kinds of things. And that's what many people have done in terms of their own personal callings in life, right, or living into their passion for life, and that they focus it, right, not so much fan the flames, but just focus it. And so anyway, I think that's cool. And my hope, we're actually going to talk a little bit more about that this coming Sunday when we talk about starting something new, is this whole sense of um, commitment to Jesus and what that looks like. I want to put in a cheap, shameless plug for some of our opportunities for folks to spend more time with God at tnumc.org/Bible for a Bible reading, right? To read through the scriptures. We know that that's the number one way to help grow our faith. And so if we can connect people, that'd be great. And then, of course, the /health check as a way to help us understand where we are spiritually currently, that offers then people prescriptions for helping grow those spiritual practices as well. And I want to encourage folks to think through that. So,
And the great thing about the Read Through the Bible plan is that you never fall behind. You can join in at any point, at any time, any day during the year. And anyone who's doing the Read Through the Bible plan is reading the same verses on the same day. So it doesn't mean you have to start in Genesis. If you start today, maybe they're reading through Mark. You don't know. So I think that that's one of the things about it is jump in and out. You can do it for a few weeks, take a break, come back. It's always there for you. And every little step you take to get started reading scripture is a step in the right direction.
Exactly. Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's all we have today. So thank you for joining us for another episode of Go Beyond. And as always, you can catch all previous episodes at tmumc.org/go beyond. And we will see you again on Wednesday at 12:30. I will have my coffee ready as always, because I don't stop drinking coffee until 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
There we go.
Bye.